The merchant's warning captain, Jared Cole, stood on the observation deck of his cargo hauler, the steady hand, watching the loading docks of Viridian Station through the reinforced viewport. His ship was mid-sized by galactic standards, capable of carrying enough grain, medical supplies, and manufactured goods to support a small colony for months. Jared had been running trade routes in this sector for 8 years, building relationships with dozens of species and earning a reputation for fair dealing and reliable delivery. The Viridian Cluster was a collection of 17 star systems that served as a major trade hub for the Outer Rim colonies. Species from across the galaxy came here to buy, sell, and negotiate. It was neutral territory, governed by ancient commerce laws that even the most aggressive empires respected. At least that was how things were supposed to work. Jared watched as dock workers, a mix of insectoid chitters and bulky gorlins, loaded the last containers onto his ship. These contained antibiotics and surgical equipment, bound for Colony Haven, a human settlement of 40,000 people on the edge of explored space. The colony had sent an urgent request for medical supplies after an outbreak of respiratory illness hit their population hard. Children were sick. The elderly were dying. The steady hand was their lifeline. A proximity alert chimed on his console. Jared glanced at the display and frowned. 3 ships had just entered the docking zone without requesting clearance. They were Talvex vessels, sleek and aggressive in design, bristling with weapon ports that were technically illegal in civilian trade zones. The Talvex Consortium had been making noise in this sector for the past 6 months, demanding that independent traders pay hefty fees to operate in what they claimed was their territory. Jared had ignored their demands. The Viridian Cluster was open space, not Talvex property. Other traders had paid the fees out of fear or convenience, but Jared refused on principle. Now it seemed the Talvex were done asking nicely. His communication console beeped. Jared accepted the incoming transmission. The screen filled with the face of a Talvex trade enforcer named Corvin. The Talvex were tall, thin beings with chitinous plates covering their bodies and multiple eyes arranged in a semicircle across their faces. Corvin's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among his species. "Captain Cole," Corvin said in heavily accented standard, "your ship is in violation of consortium trade regulations. You have failed to pay the required operational fees for 3 consecutive months. This cannot continue." Jared kept his expression neutral. "The Viridian Cluster is neutral territory. Your consortium has no legal authority here. I trade under Earth commerce regulations and galactic free trade protocols." Corvin's eyes glittered with something that might have been amusement. "Laws are meaningless without enforcement. The consortium provides security in this sector. Security requires payment. You will transfer 15,000 credits immediately, plus penalties for late payment. Total amount due is 22,000 credits. "That's extortion," Jared said calmly. "That is business," Corvin replied. "Pay now or we will impound your cargo as compensation." Jared took a slow breath. He had dealt with aggressive traders before. The key was to stay calm and not escalate. "I'm carrying medical supplies for a human colony. People are sick. Children are dying. Let me make this delivery, and I'll discuss your fee structure with my company representatives." Corvin's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Talvex equivalent of laughter. "Discuss all you want, but you will not leave the station until payment is received. We have placed a hold on your departure clearance. Your cargo will remain here until you comply." The transmission ended. Jared stared at the blank screen for a moment, then opened a channel to his crew. "Finish loading and prep for departure. We're leaving on schedule." His first officer, a veteran spacer named Chen, appeared on the screen. "Captain, the Talvex have filed a hold order with station control. We can't get clearance to undock." "Then we'll undock without clearance," Jared said quietly. "Get everyone aboard and seal the hatches." Chen hesitated. "Sir, if we violate station protocols, we could lose our trading license." "If we don't deliver these supplies, kids die," Jared replied. "Make the call you can live with, but I'm making mine. We're leaving in 20 minutes. 19 minutes later, the steady hand detached from Viridian Station without authorization. Alarms blared across the docking control network. The 3 Talvex ships immediately moved to intercept, positioning themselves between the cargo hauler and the jump point that would allow faster-than-light travel. Jared opened a general broadcast channel. "Talvex vessels, I have no quarrel with you. I'm carrying humanitarian supplies to a colony in medical crisis. Stand aside and let me pass." Corvin's voice came back harsh and final. Negative, Captain Cole. Return to the station immediately or we will disable your ship and take your cargo by force. Jared looked at Chen, who sat at the helm console. Can we outrun them? Chen checked the displays. Maybe. They're faster, but we're already accelerating. If we can reach the jump point before they get a weapons lock, we might make it. Do it. The steady hand burned hard for the jump point, engines straining at maximum output. The Talvex ships pursued, closing the distance. Jared watched the tactical display as the gap narrowed. They were going to be close. Very close. They were 3 kilometers from the jump point when the first Talvex ship fired. The weapon's discharge was intentionally aimed wide, a warning shot that passed ahead of the steady hand's bow. Jared's ship shuddered from the near miss, alarms screaming across multiple systems. Jump in 30 seconds, Chen reported, his hands steady on the controls despite the chaos. The second Talvex ship fired. This shot was not a warning. The energy beam struck the steady hand's rear cargo section, punching through the outer hull and venting atmosphere into space. Emergency bulkhead slammed shut automatically, containing the breach, but the ship lurched violently from the impact. Cargo Bay 3 is depressurized, Chen shouted. We've lost a quarter of the medical supplies. Jared gripped his console, jaw tight. Keep going. Jump now. The steady hand vanished in a flash of light, entering faster than light travel and leaving the Talvex ships behind. Inside the cargo hauler, damage alarms continued wailing. Jared pulled up the cargo manifest and felt something cold settle in his stomach. The destroyed section had contained antibiotics specifically formulated for children. Without those supplies, the youngest patients on Colony Haven would have no treatment options. The journey to Colony Haven took 4 days. When they arrived, Jared personally oversaw the unloading of the surviving cargo. The colony's medical director, Dr. Sarah Martinez, met him at the landing pad. She was a small woman with tired eyes and hands that never stopped moving. Thank you for coming, she said. We've lost 6 children already. Another dozen are critical. Please tell me you have the pediatric antibiotics. Jared's silence was answer enough. Dr. Martinez's face crumpled. She turned away, one hand covering her mouth. After a moment, she straightened and looked back at him. The Talvex? She asked quietly. They shot out our cargo bay, Jared confirmed. The antibiotics were in that section. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. Then more children will die, because someone wanted money. Jared watched her walk back toward the Colony Medical Center. Her shoulders were slumped, defeated. He stood there in the pale light of Colony Haven's sun and felt something shift inside himself. It was a small shift, barely noticeable, like a door closing quietly in the back of his mind. He returned to his ship and opened a secure communication channel to Earth Commerce Authority. He filed a detailed report about the Talvex attack, including sensor logs, damage assessments, and casualty projections for Colony Haven. He marked the report urgent and sent it through official channels. Then he opened a second channel. This one was encrypted and went to an address that did not appear in any public registry. When the connection established, a calm voice answered. Verification required. Cole, Jared, Merchant Captain. Authorization code Sierra Echo 742. There was a pause. Authorization confirmed. State your reason for contact. I need to report an attack on humanitarian supplies resulting in projected civilian casualties, including children. The attacking force is the Talvex Consortium. They're operating in the Viridian cluster. Understood. Your report has been logged. Is there anything else? Jared thought about Dr. Martinez's face. He thought about children dying because someone wanted money. He thought about the Talvex ships laughing at his warnings. Yes, he said quietly. I want to invoke Protocol Shepard. The pause was longer this time. Captain Cole, invoking Protocol Shepard has significant consequences. Are you certain this situation meets the threshold criteria? Children are going to die, Jared said. The Talvex attacked a medical supply convoy. They destroyed pediatric medications. They did it for money. Yes, I'm certain. Acknowledged. Protocol Shepard has been invoked. A response team will contact you within 24 hours. Until then, avoid further contact with Talvex forces. The channel closed. Jared sat in his captain's chair and waited. 20 hours later, a small courier ship arrived at Colony Haven. It carried replacement medical supplies, including the destroyed antibiotics. It also carried a passenger. An elderly merchant named Zix belonged to a species called the Sorvath. reptilian beings known for their exceptional longevity and commercial acumen. This particular Sorvath was ancient. His scales faded to pale gray and his movements slow with age. But his eyes were sharp and knowing. Jared met him in the steady-hand small conference room. Zix settled himself onto a cushioned platform designed for non-humanoid species and regarded Jared with a steady gaze. "You invoked protocol, Shepard," Zix said without preamble. "Do you understand what that means?" "It means Earth takes humanitarian violations seriously," Jared replied. "It means much more than that." Zix's tongue flicked out briefly, tasting the air. "I have been a merchant for 217 years, Captain Cole. I have traded with humans for 50 of those years. In that time, I have learned that your species operates according to principles that other races find difficult to comprehend." "We're not that complicated," Jared said. "Oh, but you are. Most species understand trade as a transaction between two rational actors seeking mutual benefit. Humans understand trade as a sacred trust. You do not simply deliver goods. You deliver hope, medicine, life itself. And when someone interferes with that trust, when someone causes harm to those you have sworn to help..." Zix paused. "You become something else entirely," Jared frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I am talking about the Kresh Dominion," Zix said quietly. "Have you heard of them?" "No, few have. They existed 400 years ago. They were powerful, controlling 70 star systems. They had a practice of capturing ships from less advanced species and using the crews as forced labor. They were very good at choosing victims who could not fight back." Zix's eyes never left Jared's face. 403 years ago, they captured a human exploration vessel. The ship carried 23 crew members, including 3 children belonging to the ship's officers. Jared felt something cold touch his spine. "The Kresh kept those humans as slaves for 2 years. Zix continued. "They worked them without rest. They beat them when productivity fell, and when the children became too weak to work, the Kresh killed them as examples to the adults. They thought this would make the humans more obedient." "What happened?" Jared asked, though part of him already knew. "The humans stopped being victims," Zix said simply. "Earth sent one diplomatic mission requesting the return of their people. The Kresh refused. Earth sent no further diplomats. Instead, they sent something else. Something that did not negotiate, did not compromise, did not stop until the job was complete." "And the Kresh?" "They do not exist anymore," Zix said. "Their empire, their species, their entire civilization was erased from the galaxy in 18 months. Not conquered, not subjugated, erased. When it was over, the Galactic Council made a decision. They would never speak of what happened. They would bury the records, and they would create special protocols regarding humanity. Rules designed to ensure that humans were never again provoked in ways that activated their elimination response." Jared sat very still. "You're saying Earth has done this before?" "I am saying that every species in this galaxy that has survived long enough to gain wisdom knows one unbreakable rule: never harm human children. Never interfere with human humanitarian efforts. Never mistake human patience for human weakness. Because there is a phrase that humans use, and when they use it, those who remember begin moving their assets to safety." "What phrase?" Zix met his eyes. "Now you've really pushed it." The conference room was silent for a long moment. "The Talvex don't know this," Jared said finally. "No. The Talvex are young and arrogant. They see humans as weak because you prefer negotiation to violence. They do not understand that your preference for peace is not inability to do anything else. They do not understand that you only have 2 settings, and they have just activated the wrong one. So what happens now?" Zix stood slowly, preparing to leave. Now I return to Talvex space and begin evacuating my commercial operations. I advise all merchants I trust to do the same. In approximately 48 hours, Earth will respond to your Protocol Shepard invocation, and the Talvex Consortium will learn why you should never, ever push a human too far." The old Sorvath merchant moved toward the door, then paused and looked back. "Captain Cole, may I offer you one piece of advice?" "Please." "When this is over, when the Talvex are no longer a threat, remember that you did not want this. Remember that you tried every peaceful option first. Remember that you warned them. Because the burden of being the species that can do what you are about to do is heavy, and you must carry it without becoming the monsters you hunt." Zix left. Jared sat alone in the conference room. thinking about children's antibiotics and the cold certainty in the old merchant's eyes. 47 hours later, 3 Talvex Consortium warships entered the Haven system. They broadcast a message demanding reparations for the Steady Hand's unauthorized departure from Viridian Station. They gave the colony 1 hour to comply or face bombardment. Captain Jared Cole stood on the bridge of his cargo hauler and opened a communication channel. "Talvex vessels," he said calmly. "You have threatened a human colony engaged in medical crisis response. You have attacked humanitarian supply convoys. You have caused the deaths of children through your actions. I am formally warning you to withdraw immediately." The Talvex commander's response was filled with clicking laughter. "Or what, human? You will file a complaint? You will negotiate? Weak species always hide behind words." Jared looked at Chen, who stood ready at the helm. His first officer's face was grim but resolute. Around the bridge, the crew watched their captain with steady eyes. They knew what was coming. Earth had sent word. The protocols were active. Jared looked back at the view screen showing the Talvex warships and spoke the words that would change everything. "Now you've really pushed it." In orbit above Colony Haven, space began to shimmer as faster-than-light signatures materialized. Not 3 ships, not 10. 47 vessels dropped out of FTL travel in perfect formation, completely surrounding the Talvex warships. They were not cargo haulers. They were not merchant vessels. They were Earth Defense Fleet warships, and they had come with one purpose: to eliminate the threat to human civilians once and for all. The Talvex ships tried to flee. They lasted 42 seconds before human targeting systems locked on and finished what the Talvex had started when they destroyed those children's antibiotics. This was only the beginning. Earth had sent more than warships. They had sent a message that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Humanity remembers and humanity protects its own at any cost. The reckoning. The destruction of the 3 Talvex warships at Colony Haven sent shockwaves through the Viridian cluster. Within hours, emergency broadcasts flooded the communication networks. Merchant captains from a dozen species reported the same thing. Earth Defense Fleet vessels were appearing throughout the sector, not attacking indiscriminately, but positioning themselves with deliberate precision. Corvin, the Talvex enforcer who had first confronted Captain Cole, stood in the command center of Consortium Central Station, watching tactical displays with growing unease. The station floated in the heart of Talvex-controlled space, a massive structure that served as both commercial hub and military headquarters. Around him, junior officers scrambled to process incoming reports. "Sir," one of them said, his mandibles clicking nervously, "we're receiving distress calls from 12 of our patrol groups. Human ships are jamming our communication relays across 4 systems." Corvin studied the tactical map. Human vessels were spread throughout Talvex territory, but they weren't arranged for invasion. They were arranged for something else. Something surgical. "Deploy the defense fleet," Corvin ordered. "All available warships to defensive positions around our primary trade stations." "Sir, the humans haven't actually attacked anything yet. They're just there, waiting." Corvin's multiple eyes focused on the junior officer. "They destroyed 3 of our ships at Colony Haven. Those ships fired first, sir. They attacked a humanitarian convoy, then threatened a civilian colony. The humans could claim self-defense under galactic. I don't care about galactic law." Corvin's voice rose sharply. "The Talvex Consortium does not bow to human threats. Deploy the fleet now." The orders went out. Across Talvex space, 237 warships broke from their standard patrol routes and converged on defensive positions. It was an impressive show of force, the largest military mobilization the Consortium had ever attempted. It was also exactly what Earth wanted. Aboard the Earth Defense Fleet flagship, the EDS Prometheus, Admiral Marcus Reeves watched the Talvex fleet movements with satisfaction. He was a career military officer who had spent 30 years studying xeno-military doctrine and tactics. He understood how aggressive species thought, how they responded to perceived threats. The Talvex were following the script perfectly. "All ships," Reeves said calmly into the fleet-wide channel. "The Talvex have concentrated their forces. Execute Protocol Shepard Phase 2. Target all Consortium infrastructure per the approved list. No civilian casualties. Precision only." "Acknowledged," came the responses from 47 ship captains. The Prometheus Protocol, as it had been named in classified Earth military documents, was not a battle plan. It was an elimination procedure. Earth had developed it 200 years ago after the incident with the Kresh Dominion, refining it through constant simulation and strategic analysis. The protocol had one goal: completely dismantle a hostile force's ability to threaten human lives while minimizing collateral damage to innocent populations. Phase 2 began with communications. Human electronic warfare specialists, some of the finest in the galaxy, had spent the past 48 hours mapping every Talvex communication relay, every data hub, every network node. Now they attacked all of them simultaneously. The Talvex Consortium's communication network died in 17 seconds. 2 centuries of infrastructure gone. Ships could no longer coordinate with each other. Stations could no longer report status. The Central Command lost contact with 3/4 of their military assets in the time it took Corvin to draw breath. "What's happening?" Corvin demanded, staring at blank displays. "Restore communications." "We can't, sir," the communications officer replied, his voice shaking. "The humans deployed some kind of cascade virus. Every relay we try to activate immediately crashes. It's targeting our specific encryption protocols. They must have been studying our systems for months. Use backup channels." "The backups are down too. All of them." Corvin felt something unfamiliar crawl up his spine: fear. The Talvex were warriors, conquerors. They had built their consortium through strength and intimidation. But they had never faced an enemy that could blind and deafen them so completely, so quickly. Phase 2 continued. Human ships moved to the next targets: supply depots. The Talvex military, like most large forces, depended on complex logistics networks to keep ships fueled, armed, and maintained. Earth had identified every major depot, every fuel reserve, every ammunition stockpile. They destroyed them with ruthless efficiency, not with massive explosions or orbital bombardments, with precision strikes that left surrounding structures intact but rendered the depots completely unusable. Fuel storage tanks were punctured and vented into space. Ammunition was exposed to vacuum and rendered inert. Repair facilities lost their power cores. The Talvex fleet suddenly found itself with weapons that would run out of ammunition, ships that would run out of fuel, and no way to resupply. Corvin watched helplessly as reports came in through the few hardline connections still functioning. His fleet was dying, not from battle, but from systematic starvation. "Contact the human fleet," he ordered. "We need to negotiate." "We can't reach them, sir. They're jamming all our transmission frequencies except for emergency distress calls." "Then send a distress call." The message went out. "Human forces, this is Talvex Consortium Central Command. We request immediate ceasefire and negotiation. We are prepared to discuss terms." The response came within minutes. It was not Admiral Reeves who answered. It was a woman's voice, calm and precise. "Talvex Consortium, this is Ambassador Rachel Okonkwo, representing Earth Diplomatic Corps. Your request for negotiation is denied. Earth is not engaging in warfare against the Talvex Consortium. Earth is executing a threat elimination protocol. This protocol will continue until the Talvex Consortium is no longer capable of harming human civilians or interfering with human humanitarian operations." Corvin's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. "We are willing to pay reparations." "We will withdraw from human trade routes." "Name your terms." "There are no terms," Ambassador Okonkwo replied. "You attacked medical supply convoys. You caused the deaths of children. You threatened to continue these attacks weekly. Earth does not negotiate with entities that harm our children. Earth eliminates them." The channel closed. Corvin stood frozen. Around him, his officers waited for orders, but he had none to give. The humans weren't trying to conquer Talvex space. They weren't trying to seize resources or territory. They were simply dismantling the consortium's ability to exist as a threat. On the Prometheus, Admiral Reeves received updates from his task force commanders. Phase 2 was ahead of schedule. The Talvex fleet was scattered, unable to coordinate, running low on supplies. It was time for Phase 3. All ships begin systematic disarmament operations. Target all Talvex military vessels. Disable propulsion and weapon systems. Standard boarding teams will confiscate all armaments. Treat crew members as detained combatants, not prisoners of war. The human fleet split into smaller task forces, each targeting specific Talvex ships. The Talvex tried to fight back, but without communications, coordination, or supply lines, they were helpless. Human ships were faster, better coordinated. and equipped with weapon systems that had been designed specifically to counter Talvek's defensive technology. One by one, Talvek's warships went dark. Human boarding teams moved through the disabled vessels, removing weapons, destroying fire control systems, and escorting crews to secure holding areas. It was not a battle. It was processing. The entire operation took 11 days. During those 11 days, something extraordinary happened throughout the galaxy. Old species, the ones who remembered, began sharing stories. In merchant halls and diplomatic quarters, in university lecture halls and historical archives, beings who had lived through previous centuries started talking about humanity's hidden nature. Elder Merchant Zix was not alone. There were others like him, ancient beings who had witnessed the aftermath of the Kresh incident 400 years ago. They gathered in secure locations and opened restricted archives, showing younger species what had been deliberately hidden. The recordings from that era were fragmentary but horrifying. The Kresh Dominion had been a regional power with 70 star systems and a military force of over 500 warships. They had made the mistake of enslaving human explorers, working them to death and killing 3 human children as disciplinary examples. Earth's response had been methodical and absolute. Human forces had not simply defeated the Kresh military. They had dismantled the entire civilization. Infrastructure was destroyed. Communication networks were eliminated. Every military installation was reduced to rubble. The Kresh homeworld itself was left intact, but everything that made the Kresh Dominion function was systematically erased. The operation had taken 18 months. When it ended, the Kresh were scattered refugees, their empire nothing but historical footnote. And the Galactic Council, terrified by what they had witnessed, had made a collective decision: bury the records, create special protocols regarding humanity, and pray that no species was foolish enough to make the same mistake again. The Talvex had made that mistake. On day 12 of the operation, Ambassador Okonkwo broadcast a message to the entire Viridian cluster. She spoke from the bridge of a diplomatic vessel, her dark skin and calm demeanor projected across thousands of view screens. To all species operating in this sector, she began, Earth wishes to clarify our actions regarding the Talvex Consortium. We are not at war. We are executing a lawful response to attacks on human humanitarian operations and threats against human civilian populations, including children. She paused, letting the words sink in. Under Earth law, any entity that deliberately harms human children or interferes with human medical and humanitarian assistance forfeits its right to continue operations. The Talvex Consortium attacked medical supply convoys, destroyed pediatric medications, and caused preventable deaths. They then threatened to continue these attacks indefinitely. Ambassador Okonkwo's expression never changed from its calm professionalism, but her words carried absolute conviction. Earth will not tolerate such actions. We have removed the Talvex Consortium's ability to threaten human lives. Their military forces have been disabled. Their leadership is being detained for trial under Earth jurisdiction. Their commercial operations are being dissolved, with assets distributed to compensate victims of their criminal actions. She leaned forward slightly. Let this serve as a reminder to all species. Humanity prefers peace, cooperation, and mutual prosperity. We are patient. We are willing to negotiate. We follow established laws and protocols, but we also protect our own, especially our children, with absolute commitment. When we say, now you've really pushed it, it is not a threat. It is a final warning that peaceful options have been exhausted. The broadcast ended. Throughout the Viridian cluster, species watched and understood. The Talvex Consortium, which had seemed so powerful just 2 weeks ago, no longer existed as a functioning entity. Their warships floated in space, disabled and empty. Their stations operated under human administration, processing detained Talvex personnel. Their trade routes were being redistributed to independent merchants. Captain Jared Cole returned to Colony Haven on day 15. Dr. Martinez met him at the landing pad again. This time her eyes were not tired. They were clear and grateful. The antibiotics arrived just in time, she said. We lost 8 children total, but we saved 23 others. Without those replacement supplies you arranged, we would have lost them all. Jared nodded slowly. I'm sorry about the 8. So am I, but I'm grateful for the 23. Dr. Martinez studied his face. Captain, what's going to happen now? With the Talvex, I mean. With Everything. The Talvex consortium is finished, Jared said quietly. Earth dismantled them completely. Their leadership is facing trial for crimes against humanity. Their military doesn't exist anymore. Their territory is being reorganized under Galactic Council supervision. Did we go too far? Jared thought about that question. He thought about children dying because someone wanted money. He thought about Corvin laughing at his warnings. He thought about Ambassador Okonkwo's calm certainty. No, he said finally. We went exactly as far as necessary. The Talvex had chances to stop. They chose violence against our weakest, our children. They chose to threaten humanitarian operations. They pushed until we responded the only way we could. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. Will others remember this? Will it make a difference? Elder Merchant Zix thinks so. He says the galaxy has a short memory. But events like this create long shadows. Species will remember what happened to the Talvex. They'll remember what happens when a human says certain words. 3 weeks after the operation began, Captain Jared Cole received a summons to Earth. He traveled to Geneva, to the headquarters of Earth Diplomatic Corps. Ambassador Okonkwo met him in a small conference room with windows overlooking Lake Geneva. Captain Cole, she said, shaking his hand. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure I had a choice, ma'am. She smiled slightly. You always have choices, Captain. That's what separates us from what we fight against. She gestured to a chair. Please sit. I wanted to speak with you personally about invoking Protocol Shepard. Jared sat. Did I make the right call? That's what I want to discuss. Protocol Shepard exists because humanity learned a hard lesson 400 years ago. We learned that there are some lines that, once crossed, require absolute response. Harming children, attacking humanitarian operations, threatening to continue such attacks. These are the lines. Ambassador Okonkwo pulled up a holographic display showing the Talvex Consortium's former territory. The Talvex have been dismantled. Their military is gone. Their leadership is facing justice. But 3.2 billion Talvex civilians remain, scattered across 17 systems. They're frightened, confused, and many of them had nothing to do with their government's decisions. What happens to them? That depends on us, she said. The Galactic Council has asked Earth to administer Talvex recovery operations. We're going to help them rebuild, but differently, without the aggressive military culture, without the extortion and intimidation. We're going to teach them that trade works better through cooperation than force. Jared frowned. Why would we help them after what they did? Because that's who we are, Captain. We eliminate threats, yes, but we don't become what we fight against. We respond with overwhelming force when necessary, and then we help rebuild. We show that humanity protects the weak, even when the weak are former enemies. She closed the display and looked at him directly. You invoked Protocol Shepard because children were dying. You made the hardest call a merchant captain can make. You asked your government to become something dangerous on your behalf. That took courage, and it was the right decision. But now comes the harder part. What's that? Living with it. Remembering why we did this. Making sure that the peace we create afterward justifies the violence we used to create it. Jared sat quietly for a moment. Elder Merchant Zix told me something similar. He said I needed to remember that I didn't want this, that I tried peaceful options first. Zix is wise. He's lived long enough to see what happens when species forget the cost of their actions. Ambassador Okonkwo stood and walked to the window. The galaxy will remember this incident, Captain. They'll remember that humans can be pushed into becoming something terrifying, but I want them to also remember what comes after. I want them to see that humanity helps rebuild. That we don't conquer, we restore. That's the message that will matter in the long run. Jared joined her at the window, looking out at the peaceful city below. So what do I do now? You go back to being a merchant captain. You deliver supplies, build relationships, trade fairly. You show the galaxy what humanity is when we're not being pushed. And if someone ever pushes us again, we'll remember what happened to the Talvex, Jared finished. Exactly. 6 months later, Captain Jared Cole returned to the Viridian cluster. The station had changed significantly. Where Talvex enforcers once demanded fees, now independent arbitrators maintained order through consensus. Where aggressive warships had patrolled, now merchant vessels moved freely. Elder Merchant Zix found him in the trading quarter, examining a shipment of grain bound for a Talvex refugee colony. Captain Cole, the old Sorvath said, his scales catching the station's artificial light. I see you're delivering supplies to former enemies. They're not enemies anymore, Jared replied. Just people who need food. Zix's tongue flicked out in what might have been approval. You understand the lesson, then? Humanity eliminates threats but does not perpetuate cycles of revenge. You break the wheel entirely and build something new. Is that what happened with the Kresh? Jared asked, in a way. The Kresh who survived were given new worlds, new opportunities. Earth made sure they were never a threat again, but also made sure they could survive. Humans are unique in this regard. Most species either conquer or destroy. You do something stranger. You eliminate the ability to harm, then offer the chance to rebuild. Jared watched dock workers loading his ship, Talvex workers alongside human crews, Sorvath merchants negotiating with Gorlan suppliers, life continuing. Do you think they'll remember? He asked quietly. Do you think anyone will try to push us again? Zix was quiet for a long moment. Some will forget. New species will rise who never heard of the Kresh or the Talvex. They'll see human patience and mistake it for weakness. And then, someone will say those words again. Yes. And the galaxy will remember once more why those words make ancient species evacuate their assets and young species learn humility. Zix touched Jared's shoulder gently with one clawed hand. But that is the burden your species has chosen to carry. You are the guardians who prefer peace but possess the capability for absolute elimination. You are the ones who say enough when everyone else looks away. The old merchant moved to leave, then paused. Captain Cole, I have lived for 217 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have watched species come and go. But humanity? You are something unique. You fight only when pushed beyond reason. And then you fight to end the fighting forever. The galaxy needs species like yours, even when it fears you. Zix walked away through the crowded trading quarter. Jared stood watching the endless flow of merchants, traders, and travelers from across the stars. All of them moving peacefully through space that had been claimed by force just months ago. His communicator beeped. It was Dr. Martinez from Colony Haven. Captain Cole just wanted to let you know we've been disease-free for 3 months now. The children you helped save are back in school, healthy and happy. Thank you. Jared smiled slightly. That's good to hear, Doctor. That's what matters. He closed the channel and returned to his ship. The steady hand was loaded and ready for departure. Another colony needed supplies. Another humanitarian mission awaited. This was who humanity was when not pushed. Helpers, traders, builders of connections. But somewhere in Earth's military command, Protocol Shepard remained active in the archives, ready to be invoked if necessary, ready for the day when another species forgot the lesson and pushed too far, because humanity remembered. And humanity protected its own always.